Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. It's VoiceOver Aurora. Today we're making a polymer clay Christmas kitten. And as you can see here, I'm just using regular old tin foil to kind of bulk out the head and the body and the ball of yarn that gets used. So that's what I'm doing there. After I'm done making the balls of tinfoil to bulk out the bodies, I'm using Sculpy clay, just the regular, I think it's the soft that I'm using to start covering those balls of tinfoil. Here I'm actually covering the head of the kitten with the Sculpy, and you can kind of see where I've pushed the tinfoil down in places and pulled it out in places, kind of show the ears and where the nose is going to go, so it kind of gives me an idea of how it's supposed to be shaped. Here I start using a ball stylus so that I can kind of push in where I know the ears are going to go, so that it gives it that texture of like the inside of the kitten's ears. And I'm going to use I think my large ball stylus to push in the eye sockets. Yep, there they are. And this whole time I'm trying to remember that, you know, I can always add more clay. You don't have to just use the clay that you've covered the head with. You can, you add more clay. So here I'm going to start putting on the little nose and his little, the muzzle portion. And then I use it's like a color shaper. It's flat, and I'm just making sure that everything I want it to look like a kitten. I don't want it to look like a werewolf or something, or a dog. That would not be good. And now I'm taking it's like a sharp tool, and I'm just making lines to kind of note that there's a nose. And I also use that same tool for the fur, just making little scratch marks to where the fur is going to be, because I'm going to end up putting paint washes, and dry brushing it so that it brings out that fur texture. Now I'm making little balls of clay to put inside the eye sockets for the eyeballs. And it's always good to try and make sure that the two balls of clay that you're pushing in there are the same size. Otherwise you end up with this really wonky looking cat. Now I'm just adding the eyelids to the tops and the bottoms of his eyes so they don't look like they're bugging out. And I use that little line tool again to make the little hairs look like there's, you know, eyelashes and all that, fur. Now that I've got the head done, I went ahead and started working on the ball of yarn. And that was just the tinfoil, like a perfect ball, and then I started making snakes of clay to wrap around it. But I left gaps because I'm going to use that sharp pointing tool to kind of draw in that there are other strings underneath so it looks more three-dimensional. Here you can see what I'm talking about, drawing the lines underneath the snakes of clay that I put down, so it looks like there's more string than what there really is. You don't have to make the whole ball out of string, you know, little snakes of clay. That would take forever. So I'm just drawing it all in, and then I take that same pointy tool and make little, like a cross hatching across the strings to make it actually look like yarn. And as Ace of Clay would say, it's super easy and super effective. I'm really sorry about being out of frame most of the time. It just, I don't know, I had it all lined up and it still was out of frame. So please excuse that. But what I'm doing here is I'm adding the little legs to the body so it'll, you know, hold up the little ball of yarn. And for some reason it starts not looking like a kitten as much as it looks like a Christmas turkey. It looks like a turkey. After I've added all 4 legs, I'm putting on a tail. I wasn't quite certain how I wanted the tail to look. I didn't know if I wanted it to be like twisted or curled up, and then I realized it started looking like a rat. So I was like, we're just gonna end up making it like just a straight out tail, just like it's laying on the ground with the tip sticking up. So it looks really cute when it's finished. But here you can see I'm making the paws, and I do all 4. I just show how to do the one though. I do the other 3 off camera. I'm just adding more fur, little lines everywhere, so when it gets painted, it'll look less like a bald rat, more like a kitten. Now I'm making the little, I wanted to have like a little ribbon around its neck, and I wanted to just have like a bow behind its head, so that's what I'm making here. It's not that difficult. You just kind of make 2 loops and something to go around its neck, and there you go. You have a bow. Now I'm just gonna cut a toothpick and add some bacon bond so to hold the head on, and I bacon bond the ball of clay in between all the legs, also to the tummy. And this is where I start putting the little paws on the legs, so I also bacon bond them and put little toothpicks to hold them on, so things didn't really want to go anywhere, so they were all nice and firm and they weren't going to break off. So now he's all done. I've got the ball on, his paws on, put his ribbon on, and it's time to bake. After he's been baked and he's nice and cooled down, which I waited a good couple hours for him to cool off, I'm going to start putting on the first layer of paint. And the paints I'm using are by Barrle, just a matte acrylic paint. And after I had painted the ball of yarn red, I realized I should have painted it black like everything else that I painted on it to give it more dimension, but it all works out in the end. So after I gave the entire kitten a nice coat of black paint, I had to let it dry overnight because I did not want to screw this up with the dry brushing, and that's what I did. I let it dry overnight, and then I start dry brushing a gray over the black so that the scratch marks that we did earlier before we baked have the black in them. And then I started with a real, like a dark gray. It was like almost a charcoal, and just went over everything. And when you're dry brushing, you want to go in the opposite direction, so you're like crossing the other way from your scratch marks, so that it doesn't go down into the scratches, it's just across them, so you have the black still there. And after I got the charcoal on there, I went and made a little bit lighter gray color and went and back over everything and dry brushed everything, just like the tips of his paws and the tips of his ears, and not the whole thing, just certain areas to kind of give him a little bit more dimension. I went ahead and painted his eyes black and was like, wait a minute, he looks too alien. It just didn't look right. So I had to kind of look and see what Kitten's eyes look like, and I think I got it down pretty well. And I painted inside of his ears a little bit pink, and the nose a little bit pink, and then later on you'll see where I put like little highlights. And I go back in the eyes and I redid them in a really kind of a smoky blue, which is more kitten-like, and put in irises and all that, so they look a little bit more real. And I also did a black wash around his eyes to kind of give it a little bit more dimension there as well. How many times can I say the word dimension? Oh jeez. Here I'm actually putting like a, well, this is the second coat of red on the ribbon, and then I also add like it's a clear, but it has sparkles in it, and I add that to the ribbon as well. And then I'm adding a second coat, actually it's more like the third, to the ball of yarn, so it has highlights and undertones of black inside the ball of yarn, so it has, again, more dimension. And everything on him is now painted, and he's all finished. So I hope you all enjoyed this. I love you bunches. See you later.